This is a little bit different stream. We're not actually playing another session tonight. This is more of like a hangout time, a chance for us to debrief on the fact that we just played 3 sessions all in one day, and talk about what happened, what we think might be coming in the future, as well as a little bit of group learning experience. Also, I keep scratching my leg because I got like the biggest bug bite like 5 minutes ago. As I was, I like caught the
inside
freaking
bug
mosquito
bite.
who did it and like flung him on the ground. So justice has been served, but I'm so itchy. So anyway, that's
legacy will live on.
That's why it's not like I'm trying to get my drug fix. I got my drugs right here in this bag of Chex Mix. I smuggled them in. Nobody knows. So we're all set on that front. Friends, how we doing? How we feeling?
Feeling good.
Great.
We've had a couple weeks since sessions 1 through 3. Do you remember what happened?
I mean, we got on the ship. There was some like whack stuff that happened before we even did a jump. Then we did a jump that was whack.
So that's a no.
I could go into more detail. I'm just giving others a chance.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Why don't we just start with session 1? Session 1, we kind of met everybody. What stuck out to you all about session 1? What were some of the moments that maybe you thought were fun? Remember, we had kind of a press conference at the beginning. We had a little bit of a chance to see everyone settle into their role on the ship. We met some of our crewmates. You know, what are some things that stood out to you?
The explosion, or the engine 1 failure.
Yeah, we did have a Nat 1 nice and early in the story there. That was great.
You know, these things happen.
Yeah. Sometimes ships explode.
The danger is what stuck out. I did enjoy the start of the tension we got to feel between the captain and
Dean Legrand.
Dean Legrand.
Poor JB.
Yeah, so like that was cool. Like even when Ronan had that one little interaction where he was technically trying to give Putty some time to, get time with the captain. I feel like even in that situation, like as the character playing, I feel like that was just a tense situation for Ronan even. Like staring down the person that could literally end everything for him.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
What was that like for you role playing? Also, this is like your first long form campaign with us, and you're you're getting to kind of meet your character a little bit. Those first few sessions in any tabletop game are kind of like figuring out, okay, I thought this guy was going to be like this, and actually they're a little bit like this. How has that been for you?
It's fun because I'm trying to, I'm naturally playing like the kind of tough guy or the guy that's kind of like the more of the muscle, but he's also very quiet, keeps to himself. Yet I've noticed that he is already very comfortable with a lot of the people, the way I've been like interacting with the other players and even just the crew itself. So it seems that he's very open to talking with people, but like still when it comes to main social interactions, like he's, that part of it is still like there at least.
So
it's nice to see that the tension between at least some of the other characters and the friendship too.
Yeah.
That he has been able to grow within the short time.
Do you feel like he is kind of turning out the way that you envisioned him to turn out?
A little bit. At first, I think my envision for him was going to be a little bit more, he was going to have a little bit more energy to him. Like very, very Captain Silver from the Treasure Planet. I think I've mentioned that. But no, he definitely turned out to be more of just like, you can tell something hurt him, or something has gotten to him and made him the way he is. Like that he shows that, but at the same time, like you can tell he has like a good heart now, or at least is trying. And I think that's like exactly what I was going for with that. Like he's gonna regret a lot of things. He's gonna show it, but he's gonna obviously atone or do as much as he can to atone.
I will say, he definitely seems like he's playing a lot more closer to his chest, like in terms of like what he's willing to say and whatnot, and just drops like the occasional little hints of deep lore. And I kind of like that, adds to the mystique,
He probably, it might be a while till he goes full in, I'd imagine. Like, yeah, like you said, like dropping just like small facts about his past. Like he kind of keeps it, keeps the small talk small.
I think it works.
But it's been fun. I've been enjoying him.
How has it been for the rest of you kind of meeting and interacting with Ronan? What do you feel about that character? Do you have any predictions or anything you're kind of hoping you want to see?
I'm interested to see more of his relationship with who's like the Russian person that he really hates.
Oh, Talia
the
Bones, the
other-
ship
the
security
other pirate.
officer, Talia Bones.
It's
Yeah,
Hollow.
Talia.
Yeah.
Oh my
That'll be
God,
fun.
borderline discriminatory when he's talking about gosh darn robot parts in that lady. Am I right? It's like, yo, what are we in? You have to have met more people with robot parts.
Right after
Oh.
session 02, where we were like, the one thing that we don't want to explore in this campaign is racism.
It's augmentism, I guess.
Differentism.
Oh, no. That was still funny. I mean, yeah, like I was figuring from the beginning that because that person, you know, they obviously know his history, so the tension is gonna be there. But like, it's just funny to watch him interact because like it's there, but like they don't really do anything about it. They just kind of banter. So that's the funny part about it, and I enjoy that.
He's I like that he's almost just like the cool dad on the ship. He's just there like making sure people are taken care of. When he this was later in session 3, I believe, but when he helped me get out of my pickle, getting away from nasty corporate man and getting to the office with the captain, I really enjoyed his slightly messy but very fun approach to distract.
That was fun.
It was still a distraction, no matter how
We gotta rerun your stuff. It's broken.
It's
It
not
was working
words.
when we were there. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's broken now. Yeah, I don't want to say it, but it's that other chatty
Oh,
guy.
hey, just some chatting is all I needed to do. It didn't even matter if I was saying anything smart or not.
That's so
I
funny.
mean, he's not good at social interactions. That's his thing. Like he's really
Yeah.
bad. He actually is. Actually, on my character sheet, it's really funny. I'm pretty sure it says, yeah, I am. What's the I again? I'm sorry. What is
Inability. You have an inability.
that? I have an inability for social task and verbal communication relaying info. So,
Awesome. Are any of us good
perfect.
at communication? Or like, I know
Um,
Jacqueline, I feel is better at it, but she's also been a creep and just kind of has been popping into every single
Astro is good
person.
at it.
Astra's good.
You've been
Mark
with so
Buddy-
many people, you know.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean he's
Astro's
good at
character.
it.
he's a
He's-
quiet fellow, but
He's very
Yeah.
professional. It's very
Yeah.
straight to the
Experienced, I
point. No
would say,
chit
too.
chat.
yeah. Mark,
But he's not
has-
like trained in it or anything.
Mark has a quality that I need to have a fun time incorporating. I think he has gets a buff or something. Gets a +1. I can't remember the words. Whenever he's doing a social interaction, but he's self-deprecating. It's like, hey, that wins points for other people.
Yeah, he basically can grant assets to other people when
That's
he
funny.
takes a dig at himself.
Yeah.
I considered Mike and I had to make a custom focus for his character just to make kind of the style of character he wanted to play. And before we landed on what it was, I had a long plane ride for work, and so I spent that plane ride just kind of brainstorming ideas. And the way that the cipher system works is you're a blank who blanks, and so it's the who blanks that we were trying to figure out for Mike's character. And I wrote down all these different ones that kind of fit with, like, I only had like a 1-sentence description from Mike of who he thought his character might be, so I was just kind of like throwing stuff at the wall. But one of them is afraid to talk to people, and I thought that would be a really funny way to describe, like, just like what he's doing, where it's like, man, if I don't have to talk to them, if I just do my own thing, this will be better.
It's truly just me in space.
How do you
anxious
feel
guy.
playing you in space, Mike? I've had so much fun watching Mark Putty. I feel like you really brought that character to life.
I was having such a blast. He's a lot more. He's quite sad. Trying to, which is not too far off, but his grappling with like the major thing of having to leave. I don't know. I didn't want to be too repetitious of like, I'm just it's messing me up just how much I'm leaving everything behind. But he's going through a lot.
Right.
just
But
needs
I
a
enjoyed, I enjoyed how he interacted with the people. I enjoyed how it didn't his social distance thing. It wasn't as like anxious. It was more he's annoyed that he has to talk to people at times. Especially, I loved how nasty he got with the
Kyle.
the
With Kyle.
Kyle. Holy smokes! I really didn't expect to be that aggressive towards him.
Yeah.
That
but
was such a great interaction.
Just like it's another type of like just like don't talk to me kind of guy.
Sure. Let's talk about Kyle for a little bit. We met Kyle. He's the ensign engineer on the ship, kind of second in command for the engineering team. So that's like maintenance, keeping the engines running, that kind of thing. How do we feel about that NPC?
Well, I just want to say, in the moments where it was critical, I do believe his absence was noted.
That's true. Yes, we did have that.
Ronan had nothing to do with it.
I just loved that little snippet of your absence has been noted, right as our engine was like in the middle of exploding.
Yeah.
And we were dealing with it, and he was just eating quiche.
Well, technically, Astro and Kyle didn't they go at it at one point, like a little bit, kind of like just some
little
slight
bit.
banter here and there.
Yeah, and
Did
then
that-
Mark Putty stepped in and was like,
Yeah.
I'm challenging you, Kyle, to a fight.
And then at the end of session 3 there, we had that little emergency with the EVA with the spacewalk happening. And we saw a little bit of growth there with Kyle and Astro.
Astro doesn't want to be the source of the problems, and he's used to like taking crap from people because they look down on him, and like it's happened his whole life. He's been at the bottom his whole life, so he's used to it and just kind of brushes it off because the people worth their weight know like that he's worth it, and like no one has ever criticized his work, so it's like everything is more of like a personal attack or something, so he can just brush it off.
I definitely feel like Kyle is of that person who's just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if you don't like that, that's your problem when it comes to social interactions. But when it comes to the job, he clearly like, shut up and was just like, all right, this is the problem. I'm working with these people. They know how to do their job. Social interaction or not, this is not the time.
Exactly.
And I think that was really cool. That was like a good like glimpse at like, yeah, Kyle can be a little bit of an asshole, but he knows what the job's about, and he's not going to sacrifice the job to be an asshole.
It also it felt like, at least to me, it was a chance to get away from the sort of throwaway NPC idea of like people have one trait, and try and make him like more multi-dimensional of like he can be a guy who we hate to hang out with and we still have to respect that he's good at the job. Versus like, in D&D, people are pretty much either jerks or allies. And like you kind of, or in like more like fantasy stories and more comedic, tales. Chat says, it seems like the security team needs to do some investigation on Kyle. That's an interesting thought. Have you guys considered,
I would not wish that upon Kyle.
Yeah, have you considered like sicking the security team on people or trying to like frame people or get them in trouble with Dean Lagrange? And interesting that Cleo immediately was like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
No, that's like, I like the system we have of like the crew try and resolve problems internally without bringing in like the upper brass, and that there's like this whole like taboo about going to Dean, like involving Dean Lagrange with anything, and it's like only if it absolutely has to happen.
That's like going to the like. Let's say you work for a low-level government task, and it's just like, all right, I'm gonna sick the CIA on you, and you're like, oh, buddy, I know we hated each other, but like, damn. That's how I feel sicking this particular security team on people. Like, any other security team, like in a normal sci-fi setting, like I could see, like, I'm gonna get the guard on you, and we're gonna make a big deal about it, and it's gonna be funny. But with Dean Lagrange, it's like, oh no, I would not.
With Dean though,
bad vibes.
Obviously, I think we figured out like Dean, it has something to do with the. Well, I guess the crew doesn't know about the the dark Jacqueline.
Oh,
would the rest of the crew know about that?
No, probably not.
Well, okay. Well, so let me try to say stuff so that we don't. Yeah.
No, it's okay. This is a spoiler stream. It's okay to have spoilers in here.
I'm just thinking like, cause like if obviously with Dean Lagrange, honestly, they're really not. When it comes to their physical strength, they feel like they're really not going to be too much a threat because, like you said, how they're kind of old. They're using a cane. Talia, on the other hand, is probably going to be where all the muscle's at, like basically a cyborg.
I'm pretty interested in how vehemently you all dislike Talia Bones, Because I think only Ronan actually has a reason to dislike her, other than
Okay.
she's kind of associated
don't-
with Dean Lagrange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll say like Astro has no qualms. It's purely like out of character hatred because she aligned herself with Dean.
Okay, so here's my just quick little opinion piece. All right, Talia has loyalty, and I think Talia is like, you know, this is the security. I'm gonna take this job seriously. It gives me mercenary vibes. That's why I don't trust Talia. I don't think she,
Yeah.
as a person, is like necessarily evil, but just would be willing to do the bidding of evil people because that's their job.
Hmm.
So I don't got a problem with Talia
He
personally.
does seem mercenary
Oh.
vibe. I get that.
But Dean Lagrange, that scares me. Okay, there's an adage, you know, you don't mess with old people in professions where people die young. Okay, and that's what Dean Lagrange gives me. He's an old man in a profession where people die young,
Mhm.
and that scares me.
Yeah, that is true.
Here, am I?
You're okay.
You're
We'll
Mark
give him.
and Jacqueline.
We'll give him a
Pick
couple
side.
minutes and see if he comes back. Mike's camera died. Chat. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so I get that, and also like we know in Talia's past because she's got that tattoo from when she worked there. She used to work for Heavy Care Transport, which is one of the like somewhat shady mega corporations that you all created during our world building. So there's definitely like some mercenary aspect to her of like working for the highest bidder. So I can see how that would like color your judgment of her. We also got to meet Jacqueline really twice in those streams, but let's talk about initial Jacqueline. Well, how do we feel about that first AI Cleo played?
Very strong.
I'm about to say, so helpful.
Cleo, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like she turned out how you wanted her to?
I think she was perfect. It was the right amount of, I'm just the shipboard AI, but am I? And, you know, give that little bit of inkling of just like, I have a little bit of leeway, a little wiggle room to exert my will, and I am unafraid to do so. And so I had a lot of fun with that, especially considering like how advanced, you know, Jacqueline was, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Jacqueline V1 turned out exactly as I wanted, and built the right kind of relationships, or at least, you know, set up the idea of the relationships in those few moments we had with them, you know. Rest in peace.
Yeah. So you got to play as this character Jacqueline, and I felt like you did a really good job of portraying her as like a fully realized being, basically. Like she's been around long enough that she's gone beyond just training on data sets, and she started to figure out who she is in the world. How did that then feel, having it like essentially ripped away? Or maybe we should just talk about that session too. You know, it was like a very chaotic experience for everyone. How was that for you all? How do you feel about the minigame? How do you feel like the game went? How
Session 2 was just the mini game, right? Like we did that the whole session.
Yes.
Okay.
And then at the very end, Mike got a note
That
from
was
Jackie.
it was fun just because like the way you wanted it to go, I think it went exactly like it. It was just absolute chaos. Like everyone calling out things at the same
insane.
time. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I rolled for this, I rolled for that. Like calling out numbers all at the same time. Not to mention that Josh was like could actually be like, okay, I got that, like was able to listen to every single one. So shout out to that.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, no, that
'Cause
was
we were just literally screaming at you, and you were like, I got it, like crazy.
that
But,
was
oh,
like
it's a lot of fun.
insane time management of like, I'm the DM. I am in control. You know, I have to respond to every few seconds somebody screaming something. I think the only thing that saved me was the fact that Jacqueline had that ability to do multiple actions, and it clearly was not able to role play like in real time. So we had to have those moments of pause to simulate
Right.
being able to do multiple actions, and that saved my skin.
It was really fun for me seeing the resignation on your face at the end of each round, where you were like, I guess I have to overclock at like the last second, and you'd be like, oh, I overclock. You know, like I can see that because
It was
you know
always
you're
a
like,
sigh.
if I screw this up, I get one step closer to death. There's only 3 steps, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Did it feel too like that? That essentially is like a little mini game that I built. Did it feel balanced in terms of getting to the other side? I know we won. That doesn't necessarily mean it was balanced. Did it feel like too much? Did it feel like too little? Like how could we have made that more fun, or
feel
was
like-
it just how you wanted it?
I feel like Cleo had too much. Like I understand that she's playing the AI, so the AI was obviously gonna have to do more. But like Cleo as a person isn't an AI, and I'm not sure if there was the correct balance there, even with the actions she had.
So I think I needed to delegate a little bit more, and sadly, most of those were either to NPCs, which was I think good, right? Gets to show part of the crew and their abilities. But in terms of like the players at the table, I think there just wasn't enough that I could put onto the others, or when there was, I just didn't. That was a fault of my own. I just didn't think of it fast enough. And I will say, I think in terms of difficulty, I think that was balanced appropriately. I mean, we all went into that knowing eventually Jacqueline was going to die, and partway through that, the second I first took like not just damage, but like a and
Right.
what is it called?
Fragmentation is what I called it, but it was just a step down the impairment track.
The impairment track. Yeah. Once I moved down the impairment track, I realized, oh, this is it. This is what we're going for. And I think it was well balanced for that specific story point.
It turned out, I don't know if it was the dice or if it was you or like how it landed that way, but it was pretty amazing to me that it made it exactly to the end of that 10-round game, and
Yeah,
then
that was really good.
you like blew apart because you could have blasted apart on round 3.
Oh yeah.
And
That
it
was
was it made for such a great moment, and you always do such a good job of like when those high intensity moments come up, you do a really good job of turning it into a high intensity story moment instead of it just being like Jackie died and I'm sad. You know what I mean? Like I felt like you did such a really good job of even looking at, you were like down to your last 2 actions and you were like, well, I could fight this thing or I could try and like help my friends with my last gasp. And it like it was just really interesting to watch that. I thought you did a great job.
To be fair, there's like some narrative points I wanted to hit before dying, and I realized it was like now or never to hit those, and that's when I was just like, okay, we're not going to fight the unwinnable fight, and instead we're going to hit those, narrative points
Yeah.
that I know Jacqueline would want to. Right? It's like my house is burning down or something. Like I'm on a sinking ship, but I have the ability to send one last heartfelt message to family. I'm going to do that. And that's exactly what Jacqueline did. Once Jacqueline realized there was no winning that fight.
Mike, how did you feel emotionally receiving that message?
Devastated. It was a lot. I mean, at least going back to the imagery of when she sent it off, I still just thought the throwing a paper airplane while a raging bull charges in, or whatever the exact words were. That I loved that, and then oh goodness, yeah, it was crushing. Anytime I felt goofy, but anytime I would interact with Jackie, I was trying to really I didn't want to disrespect Cleo by not looking at her, but like I just imagined her in my head, and so I just really focused on the headphones,
Oh, no, yeah.
especially in that moment with the recording, just sitting there and imagining having that feed into genuinely being fed into my bones with the type of headphones that I've written for myself, just radiating into my body, this voice of this person or this entity that I tried to create a bond with. It was very hard.
Yeah.
It was very sad. I hope that the response, the words that I came up with, whatever they were afterwards, were sufficient too.
They were great. That episode
Like
just
how Mark
came
was
out.
feeling, because it was genuinely, I wanted to cry. I don't know if I've
Yeah.
really wanted to cry during an RPG before, but this was a beautiful moment.
And that was day 1.
That's day one. Yeah, absolutely came in and slammed me right off the bat.
This is microphone. This is Mike tier tour. Round one.
Wow.
We're headed for
Yeah.
round two.
The mic joke comes full circle. I
I would
am
got
next to
him.
microphone.
I
think
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think mechanically, instead of it being like real time and all of us just shouting, maybe to make it like, I understand you wanted that feeling of chaos and tension, but maybe just giving everyone like 15 seconds and Cleo gets 30 just for the sheer amount that she has to deal with. I don't know, just maybe something to try. But I think for like a first time, like it went about as good as it could.
I think it went as well as it was intended. I loved the chaos. I am a chaos gremlin, you know, and I think that was the intention, right? Of I think mechanically, right? Maybe our characters, like, lore wise, may have been able to do more or do things differently. But I think that got over the same exact value of panic and like, you know, right now. And that I think it came across well. I think it did what it was intended to do.
It
which was
definitely
bring
felt
some
chaotic.
panic.
You were all panicking.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Ronan was pretty relaxed. he only I think I only messed up like one roll, I think, for him.
That's
That's
one thing
bad,
that like
but
if
It was like immediately fixed.
I was gonna say that's one thing that like if I could go back and do it over again, I would make more problems for Ronan for sure. I wouldn't change the problems everybody else got. I would just add problems for Ronan, just because I felt like he
Kitchen's
needed
on
to be as
fire. The
involved.
food supply is like on fire. I'd be like,
Threatened.
oh crap.
That has anybody watched the edit of that episode yet?
I've only seen
No.
the first episode so far.
It's not like a quiz. It wasn't homework. I was just
No.
curious. I tried to edit for pacing to try and make it feel like more accurate to the fact that it's like this is only 10 set. Like that episode came out to be an hour and 13 minutes, and normally they're like an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes episodes for us. And so I was trying to really like keep that pace and like make it feel panicky without like I didn't want to get rid of the fact that it's a game, so we have to see the dice get rolled and we have to but I was trying to like find that balance, and I think it turned out to be really fun to watch back just because adding the sound design to the chaos of all of you yelling, like in the edit of the episode, it's not just you all yelling things to each other. There are alarms going off in the background and explosions as debris tears into the hull, and you know the sound of the engines misfiring and plasma shooting off into the distance and stuff like that. And it really like, I don't know, you guys did such a good job of bringing that chaos to life without all the sound design that when I added all of those edits, it really felt like a pretty stellar performance from you all.
Awesome.
I'm excited to watch or listen to the second episode.
I'm
So-
just trying to be careful because I don't want to spoil that message from Jacqueline
Oh.
to Buddy.
Well,
So I'm
remember,
like, I stayed away from like the end of the episode.
well, remember that you can separate Tyler the player from Ronan the character. Like that's one of the core skills of tabletop gaming. We talk about metagaming as like, you know, oh, my character is acting on information that only my player should have. But like you can know what those moments are and celebrate those performances as Tyler, as long as you make sure that they don't influence how Ronan behaves. And sometimes you can use that to then create like really powerful moments later. Like if I know that, you know, I'm making this one up, but like if I know that Tyler and Trevor had a moment where the big source of the conflict was that we discovered that Tyler is scared of the dark and he doesn't want anybody to know. But I, as another player, heard that experience. Then later on, I can prompt him in that direction without having my character betray that knowledge because the player in me knows. Like, I can see a dark cave and I can decide that, well, it makes sense for my character to want to go explore, and it sets up Tyler to have a chance to explore this like fear of the dark at the table. So sometimes having that knowledge can be really helpful for like just kind of setting up other people to have cool spotlight moments. And like put them front and center in the story. So don't be, you don't have to listen to it. I get it if you're method acting and you're like, I don't want to know, that's great. But just don't be afraid of like, that can also be an asset to know those things.
I feel like Tyler might also just be excited to be like just as the audience, right? And
Surprise.
like, get the payoff.
I did watch you guys for like a whole 2 years before I
true.
joined the campaign.
That's true. watched
I
us
love,
and then
I
you
love,
fought
I
us.
love listening to the first camp. I like still my favorite one that you guys have I think ever done will be the Fox's adventure, like that entire arc there.
The Sly Cooper
what,
themed one.
Sly Cooper arc. Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
will
yeah,
always
that
be my
was fun.
favorite.
That was
That
a
was
good
a
It was
lot
time.
so
of fun.
good. Getting Jeb back and all that, like that was so cool.
So, okay, so episode 2, we kind of jump through the Cosmeridium event. We compress space time. We launch ourselves out into deep space. Through all of that, somehow we nail all of our communication satellites, but everything else is nice and panicked and challenging. We get to deep space, and we get kind of our first glimpse of like what maybe life might actually look like in this campaign. You know, those first 2 episodes are basically set up to get us to deep space so that we can start exploring and looking for cosmetaline and, you know, kind of following the real quest arc here. And in that initial episode, or in that initial deep space episode in episode 3, we're kind of on the come down of like this high stress, and so we have a little bit more of like free roam, you know, kind of time for you as players to explore. How do you feel about the exploration you did? I mean, how do you feel about those moments your characters had? What are your thoughts on the stuff that you learned or the places you went?
I do want to say real quick, it's all thanks to Mike that we got those satellites out.
That is
Yeah.
true.
The
only thing I
don't
could
think
focus
I don't
on.
think Cleo dropped one satellite.
That's all I did. Everything else I had.
It's
no idea
important,
what
though.
to do.
I
The
kind of
satellite was huge.
I feel like narratively it would have made it much more interesting if we had failed, but I'm glad we did it like as, you know, characters, like we did our job.
I disagree. I think it'll be more beneficial narratively because we can have moments, especially with like I guess this is a little bit selfish, but with like Astro, he can actually like send messages to his wife, and there's some like story to be told with that.
Oh, sure.
Chat, we actually have an arboretum on board our ship. Chat's like, you got to get a hydro garden to help with oxygen and fresh food on the ship. We actually have an arboretum. So one of the crew members on the ship is Kaya Smith. She's the ship's botanist, and she has a whole basically greenhouse space or arboretum where she's brought all kinds of different foliage and fauna, and her part of her whole reason for being on the ship is to explore how those things will react to deep space. But because she is there and growing things, she has a whole herb garden that our ship's cook, Ronan Voss, is taking advantage of. So all of the food is flavored with fresh spices and stuff like that, and we do have like that's helping with the oxygen regulation and everything. How do we feel about Kaya? We actually saw a lot of Kaya in those first 3 sessions, between her arboretum catching on fire in the Cosmeridium event, and then also we had she had a couple of moments with Mark where she seemed to kind of like get him without being, you know, like socially forceful or whatever. Like, how do we feel about Kaya?
I love her. She's my substitute sister.
Kaya's awesome.
Kaya's
That lives
chill.
in my book, yeah.
I don't think Astro's really interacted with her, so I guess character-wise, he doesn't really have a strong opinion either way. But
Sure, but like,
Out
what
of,
about as a
like-
player?
as a player, love her. She's great.
Marry
She's
her.
fun. No.
Marry her. She is fake, just to be clear.
No, give her to
You said that, Kaya, I love you.
Why do you have to ruin my love for Kaya?
No,
Wow.
bring her back.
Wow, we play for
I
one
really
day,
liked-
and my whole cast are simping for one of my NPCs.
That was like when we were going through the session 0 stuff. That was one that I think multiple people of us were like, I want to be friends with Kaya.
That's
We-
true.
yeah.
I want her to be my friend. I want her to be my liked person.
Yeah.
He made sense to be Ronan's friend just because, like, he would, when, you know, other than staying in the kitchen and being in the med bay with Mr. Talks a lot,
Victor Meridia.
tells me everything about his life story multiple times, new story every day.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no, Kaya would definitely be the one he would go to because getting his herbs and stuff, and then obviously she's a talker, so she's gonna get some sort of conversation out of him at some point. So I would definitely think that's why he would be like close with her, at least friends with her.
Sure. I think she might be my favorite one to do just because I really like her accent. I haven't done an Australian accent before in any of my campaigns, but I felt like hers came
It's
off
cool
really
that you
nicely.
have both the brother and sister, so you can kind of, you know, do the
like
the-
a little
both the
higher and a
different
lower
voices.
one, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like that one of them seems pretty universally liked, and one of them seems kind of universally
That's
disliked.
the best part. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun because then I have
I
an
think that's
opportunity
good.
to give
I
them
think
like a
that's
little sibling
honestly
conflict as well.
The best part about it.
Really, you think that's the best part about them?
Or just, like the fact that one is loved and then the other one is hated by like
Yeah.
almost everybody. I
That
think
is
that's
pretty
like
cool.
a great little like feature for them.
What about Victor Meridia? You talked about Dr. Talks a lot. Fun fact about Victor Meridia, he was not a guy who talked a lot until you, Tyler, spoke that into existence at the table. And I was like, that's a hilarious quality for this guy. And I just rolled with it. That was great character building on your part.
It was just
What are our thoughts on the doc?
I do love he thinks he's very tech literate and clearly is not. I think that was a great interaction with Jacqueline.
That was so funny.
That was another emergent element of him. I didn't know that about him until you were like, no, I'm still here. I'm in the camera. I was like, this is such a fun bit.
I think he can be like used as like an asset almost as like a maybe we could use him as a distraction at times. Like,
Maybe.
oh, Victor, like he wanted to ask you about your army days. Like gone.
Immediately gives me uncle vibes. All right.
Yeah.
He gives me the like not the hated uncle, but just like he's the uncle.
Deleting video. Beep boop.
Oh, the beep boop. I love the beep boops.
That was so good.
Beep boop beep.
Smokes.
Can we make a you guys gotta make like a Discord sound or a Twitch sound with that?
Yeah,
Oh, that
I
would
can
be
do that.
good.
Challenge accepted. Beep, boop, bop.
Beep, bop, boop, beep.
Who is your favorite, maybe excluding Kaya, who is your favorite NPC that you've gotten to interact with so far in the story?
I mean, all right, if I'm gonna be selfish, I really liked the kind of relationship Jacqueline and Chet Gamma had.
Yeah.
It was
For chat's
It's
benefit,
like-
this is Captain Chet Gamma, captain of the ship.
he was very much gives me the vibe of like the coolest boss ever. But you know what he gives me vibes of? It kind of give me vibes like I was in the inner circle of Nick Fury. You know, kind of vibes. You know, like this is the guy who's gonna take the big swings. He's gonna get stuff done. You know, not afraid of like regulations necessarily, but still still working within the system, right? And so it's kind of fun to bend the rules a little bit with him.
Yeah.
I love our resident bad boy. Our clear villain.
Oh, Dean Lagrange.
Dean Lagrange.
Mr.
Yeah.
Lagrange. Holy smokes. I just
Oh,
love every
Dean.
detail of him just screaming that he's not a good man. His cane clickety
The
clacking
cane was the
It's just every time he's brought up, he's doing something that just makes him look like a total bad.
His suit being specifically
the
blood
voice
red.
too. It really is the voice. Like
will
it's
say-
not just an old man voice. It's like what Cleo was saying earlier. The fact that he is that old and still this line of work, like you can tell just by his voice, he has seen and been through some stuff.
Yeah, and he really did make me nervous when I was in the elevator. Like I knew you were gonna put him in there with me. Going upstairs. I enjoyed the little interaction and trying to. I imagine he can see through any time someone, especially a weasel like Mark, is trying to schmooze him over. So be like, oh, what did you used to do before this? Like, I'd love to pick your brain sometime. I was hoping to get into his ego, but I feel like he can see through that.
Yeah.
But he was just so stuck like glue when I was trying to get to the captain, and I was so stressed. But I did like interacting with him and having to manage that. He's a bastard, but he's cool.
I'm really interested to see. He clearly is a man of sheer fucking will, right? Like, this is the guy who does not let anything stand in the name of his mission. And I think that was clear with what we think is him being bad. But I think that's just him, like, I'm going to take control of the situation because I don't trust anybody else. And so I'm kind of curious when, like, the chips are down, what he's going to do. And no, it's going to be a mix of, well, here's a perfect opportunity for me to gain more control over the situation, but I still have to manage the ship, right? I think he still has the mission at heart. He doesn't want to get people killed unnecessarily. But I do think he would kill someone if he deemed it necessary.
You think he's the kind of guy to
There's
shove
gotta
someone
be
out
some
an airlock?
shady stuff.
Yeah, he's the guy who, when the chips are down, nobody's overlooking, would shove somebody in the airlock and be like, "This is justice."
And
And
it's like, this isn't personal.
but I think he would wholly believe that, and I think that makes him an interesting character. Is that I don't think this is a power grab for power's sake. I think this, if he does power grabbing, it is because it's to fulfill his mission.
Yeah. Do you
He
think
gives me
that
that
he
vibe.
would like? Do you think that there's maybe people that are like secretly, you know, that are on the crew that might be working under him? Maybe maybe
100%.
How we established
like
that
there's like some other than
Tara
Talia, you know,
or Talia.
other
I
than
think-
Talia, like maybe he like has some people like giving him some information here and there, or like keeping an eye out, or like when
Oh,
the time
definitely.
comes, they're like there for like a mutiny or something like that.
I think JB sadly has been compromised. And I don't think he wants to be.
JB, oh, that's poor JB.
I think JB is sadly in a situation where like he realizes he's been threatened, right? We don't know
Yeah.
with what, we don't know how, but I think if things hit the wall, JB's picking Dean's side if it means Dean's not going to go through with whatever threat, you know. I feel like Dean would be like, it may take however many years, but like you mess up, I'll send this, and your family will never see the light of day.
Mm.
It may be decades from now when the message is received, but I'll make sure everyone, North Korea style, I'll make sure everyone gets sent to the prison camp. I feel like that's the kind of threat Dean would go for.
I'm waiting to see if he's the ultimate red herring of just being painted so overtly like a bad boy
That's what I was thinking.
that Josh is
Oh.
waiting to be the cruel DM to take one of our beloved friends and make them turn
It's been
against
Kaya
us.
all along.
Yeah, if,
No,
it's gonna be Kaya,
stop.
if Kaya's going to end up hurting us, and Miss Lagrange is going to be like, "I've been trying to help you behind the scenes. It was all a ruse. What do you?
Like-
why does everyone hate me?"
Chat
Like
says
a
it's
Snape
like
sort of character.
chat says it's like
a
having
Snape-
Hydra
yeah,
on the
Snape
ship.
role. Or he could just be like an absolute like wuss after it all. Like finally, like when he gets down to it, he's just like, "No, please don't hurt me." Like,
I definitely feel like I would be disappointed if that's what it came to. If like if we backed him in a corner, he's just like,
it's like,
"Oh
please,
damn,
please,
guys,
no.
you got me. Don't hurt me, please." I'd be like,
turns into the what's it called, the Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
You catch him one day, he's walking without his cane, like he's actually on a sprint, and you're like, "Wait, what? Like you can run?" He's faking the limp the whole time.
That's fun. I'm taking notes. Don't mind me.
yeah.
Have
Josh,
you
that
we
is
talked
way
about his
better than
cane
I
being
have.
like a weapon? Have we talked? Didn't we talk about that?
I don't
is
think
Kane
so.
being a weapon?
Yeah.
I talked about his cane being made of metal, but I didn't talk about it like
Yeah.
in the context of being a weapon. It was just
Oh.
like, oh, it's metallic, so when it hits the deck, it rings or it pings
Even
off the
if
deck.
his
Well,
cane
Knowing Josh is a
wasn't
Ruby
secret
fan,
weapon,
that could change very soon.
I'm just saying, even if his cane wasn't a secret weapon, the fact that
It's
it's
still a
metal and he's, in that kind of profession, it is a deadly weapon. That's all
he
I
has. That's his
He's
weapon.
a
That's one
master of
weapon he
martial
has.
arts.
Yeah, Logan.
hang fu.
I'd love to see if you can like flick off the top and there's a button there that just like does a hostile takeover of the ship somehow.
That's
Just
fun.
A massive power surge. That'd be
Oh
fun.
my
I mean,
gosh.
if you have the shipboard AI under your control, you pretty much
Mhm.
control the ship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lagrange.
Lagrange.
I'm so
Evil
intrigued
Jack.
for Jackie's rebirth arc. It's not going at all
Yeah.
how I thought it was going to go. Cleo, how are you feeling about this regrowth of Jackie, and especially like being tied to Mark in this way? Like, Mike, how are you kind of feeling about that story as well? Are there ways that you want that to go, or like predictions or things that you were hoping for?
Do you want to start, Cleo?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm just saying, I'm loving it. I am loving every second of it. It is making such like good drama. I'm just here for the ride. When it comes down to it, there's sort of a freedom of that, right? Because I'm limited and whatnot, I am more focused on how can I narratively drive this character versus what do I need to do right now as a character. What do I need to do right now is just learn and just interact. and
Oh,
that is
learning you
so much
are.
fun.
Oh my god. I'm so nervous. It's like being with the most easily influential child that we could ever imagine. I mean, other than the immediate painful things of Mark having to put his professionalism, his feelings aside and just like understand and like go do the task. But we
Yeah.
immediately have gotten in a position where I'm about to fight somebody, and now I've got to try and teach any kind of morally questionable decision Mark makes. He has to explain it to Jack,
Oh, that's so fun.
and it's so stressful. It's like,
Yeah.
is this? Do we hate this guy? It's like, is this something? Are we supposed to lie? Oh, fuck.
I do like that you made Jacqueline already like aware that Lagrange and Talia are kind of not the people to like trust.
Okay,
Like I like
so
that. I like that Putty kind of like did that right away.
I
I
was
like
riding on
marking
Putty.
Kyle as a as a target, or just like
Yeah.
saying we don't like Kyle.
Like eventually Jacqueline's just gonna be like we don't like you and like take him out like with violence or something after the fight. After she sees you fight. Oh, this is what we do.
That was wholly up to Mike in the sense of like I was like, all right, Jacqueline doesn't know anything. And I think I did at one point specifically ask you just to like clarify, like, oh, do we trust this person? Because I was like, I need to know as a player, but as also as a character, like, how do I play Jacqueline in these moments? And so I'm kind of
Yeah.
glad you cemented the idea of like that guy, don't trust.
No, this
Yeah,
guy bad.
Have you ever seen oh, what's it called? Chappie.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love
It's-
Chappie.
It feels like that, Josh. You shook your head. No, it's just a robot that's basically an AI that's learning at a very similar pace to Jacqueline, and eventually gets taken by some naughty boys and like.
And they teach them all
do bad
sorts of
things.
naughty things.
They teach them all sort of naughty things with the guise that it's helping people.
Gotcha.
Like they say that it puts it. Oh, the knife doesn't kill people; it just puts them to sleep. And so he's just like, oh, sleep, good night.
Oh, wow.
And so like I'm very scared of stuff like that with Jackie. I don't think it'll ever come to anything that drastic, but it's a huge responsibility, and I know Cleo's gonna be an absolute gremlin with it and do her best to really make me squirm, and it's so much fun. It's so stressful.
I am 100% taking notes on little things you say, on anything that could be misconstrued.
I can feel the monkey paw being built any time.
I also love it because it's a chance to be like, I know, like, partly what I want this character to be, but at the end of the day, it's like I'm letting the other characters in the story shape my character in a much more aggressive way than I think you would see in a normal party.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it a lot of fun, interesting, and dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ronan's gonna teach Jacqueline stuff just like with small talk. See this? Do this. All right, cool. Small, like it'll be simple. But I think that'd be cool, like with everybody teaching.
To the babysitting days where it's like, all right, Mike's going to sleep. Jackie still needs to learn who's up.
Asher's just gonna be like Asher's gonna be playing the actual dad role. I feel like with Jackie more than anything. Where Mark is like treating it like an AI, and it's gonna be like, okay, you need to learn this, like you just said. Things can't be too literal. Whereas Asher's just gonna be like, oh, little baby, you're like just take care of me like that.
Well,
I feel like that's.
I think it'll be more like very like kind of the other way from Mark, where it's going to be very like by the book and the handbook, and like, okay, so this is my job responsibility. We're gonna go down the checklist. We're gonna count everything again. You know,
show up for a morning shower at this time.
That moment,
that kind of stuff.
That moment, Trevor, where I don't remember who it was, maybe Mark and Kyle. Two people are like having a fight in the engineering room or an argument, and they storm out of the room, and the scene ends, and we're transitioning over to somewhere else, and you just chimed in with just like a one-sentence screw 3,762, screw 3,762. Cracked me up. I spent several minutes trying to compose myself to continue with the next scene. and like maintain the like somberness of whatever that situation was.
I did tell you I was counting everything.
I know, but then you did it. It made me laugh.
So funny.
There's a
That
good
was
grounding effect on the scene.
Yeah.
it was the perfect button.
Yeah.
I've loved pretty much every one of the scenes we've done. I love that you've given us so much room to play. And I don't know, it's so much. The whole setting makes me feel good. I love getting to know all these
Yeah.
NPCs. I love getting to know these people. It's just been.
It's very
been so much
different
fun.
from the way our last two adventures have
Oh,
played
yeah.
out in terms of like I normally have erred on the side of keeping the game moving and trying to like skip to the action, so to speak. So I've been trying to be really intentional this season because all of you gave me that feedback at the end of the last season. Is like we want more time to like explore scenes and just like have those kind of like player driven moments. And so I've been trying to be really hands off in terms of like I very rarely will end a scene unless I feel like, oh, I found the perfect button for it, and I kind of let you sit there. And sometimes it means we have moments where Mike looks at me and goes, "Do you really want me to talk about Curry for 24 more minutes?" But even that was so funny of him, like
It was a good button in itself.
yeah. And then me skipping to 29 minutes instead of 30 so that he could still be talking about Curry as the machine dinged.
I do have to say, to our chatter here, I don't have the screen nearly as high, so I can't see their name. But like,
Crafty Emerald Phoenix.
yeah, when we gotta find somewhere in like the next couple of episodes or somewhere in this campaign, we gotta find a space goose. I think that would be. I am loving. You've seen the Goose Game, right?
Yeah.
I'm imagining that levels of chaos on the ship.
Oh, just if a goose is on the ship?
Yes.
That's kind of fun.
We're talking.
Like somebody
Goose
adopts
is in the
a
chat.
goose. Oh.
What are some other things that you, either scenes that you hope happen or like moments that you hope are part of the story, or things that you're predicting, like based on where the story has been so far? I think this is going to happen to us soon.
I'm worried what Dean Lagrange is plotting. He's clearly plotting.
Yeah.
He is a plotter.
But what's he plotting about? Like the mission is so open-ended. Go into space, find cosmetaline, refine some of it, and bring it back to Earth. Like, what could
Who's
his
to
plot
say he's
even
not going
be
to claim
in
it
that
for
space?
himself?
No, I think it's going to cut back to what I was saying earlier of like, he's just plotting to keep us on track no matter the moral ethic boundaries he has to break for that. Like if we find alien life and they're in trouble and we're like, okay, let's take a detour and help them out, Dean Lagrange would be plotting as a way to pull us out of that and be like, no, our mission's this. People are waiting for us.
Gotcha.
Right? That's what I'm worried about is like he's going to be like nefariously keeping us on the tracks.
Kind of like the military in the first Avatar movie, where they're like, "Well, this alien race is on the resource we need, so yeah, we got to go take that."
Yeah, yeah. I think we. You know what? If it isn't already in Josh's head, I'm sure there will be a scene later on where we'll find either it doesn't even have to be a civilization, just like a beautiful landscape of something, right? Like of just plant life or something. And it's just like, wow, this is a delicate ecosystem. And they're like, yeah, but we found cosmetaline under there. So when everybody was talking, discussing what we should do, I went ahead and just fired a nuke from orbit. I solved the discussion by making it no longer applicable. Like I feel like that's things Dean would do, and I think that makes him an interesting villain because he's not a villain in terms of like,
he's still working for the mission that everyone is working towards.
Yeah, he just has his own methods. So
I'm waiting to see if there's any sort of heavy care interaction, which I think about it now. I don't know how they would be out here if we're like the only way we got this far is with the cosmetalates. I don't know.
Well, there'd be like messages, but I don't think anyone from our solar system will be able to get to us.
I
Right.
just had a revelation. But
Even the
I'll let you
messages
guys-
will take like it'll be a month round trip or more. Of like even though you have all those satellites, you've still got speed of light's all we've got. We've not broken that barrier as humans in this universe, so we're still
Okay, I just have to say, someone is 100% dropping beacons on every planet we visit as potential resource node, potential, oh, this is a good base to set up, and it's going to be stealthy, right? Because it's not like part of our mission, but they're definitely doing a corpo's job. Somebody is a corpo sleeper agent,
Mm.
just
Agreed.
I will say
letting
for me,
breadcrumbs.
I'm really excited to get to the stage of the story where we're exploring new places. Like
Yeah, that'll be fun.
everything we're
That's my
doing
favorite
is
part, yeah.
necessary and makes sense, and I'm glad that we're doing it, and it's been fun to watch. And even in the next time we play, like the next batch of 3 sessions that we do, some part of it's still gonna have to be devoted to like, well, the ship still needs repairs, Jackie still needs training. Someone's got to fight. Mark, I think, has to fight Kyle in the holodeck. But like, you know,
would any of us be sent on the planetary missions?
yes, I think
yeah,
some of you
Ronan was-
would.
I
Ronan
would
was
automatically
hired
get
for
sent.
that.
Yeah, that's exactly
that's
what I
true.
got hired for.
Yep, Ronan's one of the people who'd be sent down. And then there's also like, even if you're not all sent down to the surface of the planet, I imagine that kind of like, you know, remote mission is something where all hands are on deck on the ship too. Like Mark is probably guy in the chair for any of those circumstances, so he's very actively involved in like communicating with them. I imagine that Jackie, or perhaps an instance of Jackie, is going down with the ship to perform like analysis and stuff in the field. So I think that there
That's
is
fair.
a lot of tie in there. It's interesting for me to run this story knowing that you all kind of intentionally picked the nobodies of the ship to be. Like it would be if you were like all the bridge crew, like the helms person and the weapons officer and stuff. It's like so easy to tie you into all the big quest things. It's an interesting challenge for me as the DM to be like, how can we involve you in all these things? Or while those things are happening, like what happens to the nobodies? Like what's happening on the ship for everybody or whatever. And so that's kind of an interesting prospect too, because we only have the one drop ship. So it's not like you can be like on a bonus mission or something. But anyway, maybe Sam Nova can make you one. You've got a fabrication specialist who didn't get any screen time at all the first couple of
I know. I'm looking
adventures.
forward to her and Astro's interactions when that comes up.
I just had a little devious idea.
Ooh.
And this is not like, I don't know. I feel like having Jacqueline go down as an instance opens up a whole world of interesting drama, of one instance of Jacqueline finding out something crazy, right? Like life altering, and then either not making it back
Oh, interesting.
or making it back, but it's too late for the other Jacqueline by the time they remerge to act upon it. And
That's fun.
I'm just, I'm thinking of devious things. I shouldn't be saying these out loud. I really shouldn't.
I promise I've considered them all already.
Josh has watched every sci-fi show.
To be
I've
fair,
read all the Halo books in preparation for this story because I wanted to get like a non-mainstream, or I mean it's mainstream, but it's not like the most popular sci-fi. I wanted to see like what some of the more like marginalized ones are doing. So I did that. I went through Ender's Game. I've been studying up.
Josh introduced the idea of instanced AI. So if I'm thinking of it, he's already done it. It's either already in the plans, already cooking, or he's already thought of it and thought of something better.
There's
so.
a great Halo book that's about a very similar experience to what you're describing, where an AI sends a fragment of themselves down and they discover the location of a Halo ring, and then they get corrupted and they have to try and like figure out, is there any way to find it still? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I am excited to fight Kyle.
Honestly, I want to see that so bad.
It's interesting.
Like
When I did it, I wasn't sure. After I did it, I wasn't sure if it was actually a decision that I was happy with. I was like, maybe that was a little too rash of Mark. But I was like, he's very emotional right now. He's going through all this stuff. He hates this guy, so I think it makes sense. But I'm ready to wrestle.
Did we decide on the event that we're doing? Was it the
It's
like
the
Hollow
WWE.
Sports?
The wrestling
virtual
one.
wrestling.
Yeah.
MME, is that what you called it?
yeah.
And someone figured out what it stood for, but I don't remember it now.
I'll have to go back.
Episode
did we
3 is
mention
not
that?
out yet. That's the next one I'm editing, so I've just started that one.
Oh, okay.
Episodes 1 and 2
Mixed
are
and
both out.
tangling entertainment.
It's something that was like Marshall something.
Marshall men.
You know,
Marshall men.
Man.
Masculine men entertainment.
Wow.
It was great for, like, Mike brought that up, or Mark made that comment about MME, and it was the perfect moment for me to set him up with, oh, you mean that one where it's all fake? And be like, it's real.
That was
fake.
Yeah.
So good.
Especially when he's already like on the edge and upset a little bit.
Yeah, it's just really
the small jabs are great.
That's so good.
Have you considered like how you're gonna actually do the fights mechanically, Josh?
I've been thinking about it. I have some ideas. I think my favorite idea is, well, do you want it to be a surprise, or do you want me to tell you what I think I'm going to do?
That's up to Mike, since he's doing it.
I want
I
it to be
think
a
I-
surprise, personally.
I think I mostly want it to be a surprise. The only thing I'm envisioning is like similar to the Lario Kart, where it's like not just on a controller. Like it's not fully physical, but like it's like maybe like a haptic feedback suit where I can still like kind of
Yeah,
influence and feel the stuff. So at least that minor integration.
sure.
Right, you still have to make the
Is-
movements, but you have the quote unquote strength of whatever character you're playing as.
Right.
Yeah, so it feels slightly more like a genuine fight without actually having to get my teeth knocked out.
Right. Yeah, can't have
but-
crew members getting their teeth knocked out. Then you'd have to listen to Victor and
No.
Radia talk.
He'll
Um,
probably be at the fight.
Any other scenes
Oh.
that you're like dreaming of or hoping for, or that you think are coming up?
I think just teaching Jackie is gonna be really fun.
Yeah, the
I
three
think-
dad model. I loved the first time we all actually sat down at the table together, and like had that little kind of moment with each other, to like talk to Jackie and like about all that stuff. I thought
feel
that was
like
cool to
this
see
is-
everybody actually fully in one spot.
3 dad moment here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about that.
About that moment,
Yeah,
or like what
that
I'm
moment
looking
happened
for.
in an episode
I don't
that's
know,
not out yet. Like, let's talk about it.
It's oh goodness, I can't even fully remember. It was when we're just all talking about the stuff with what happened in that particular one. I remember talking to Astro about his stuff. I remember
Yeah, and then
talking about-
Kyle like looked down on him because of his position.
Mhm. I remember talking.
Jack was just watching with apt,
Mhm.
focus. Like,
Yeah, just having to explain the if it's okay to fight, or like if it's okay to avoid protocol or break protocol kind of thing.
Ronan was just standing there.
Jacqueline's learned there are rules under the rules that are more important than the rules.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
Ronan
dangerous.
set it up though.
I
Organized
did,
it.
yeah, but I didn't like initiate it. It was more like Putty was like, "Yo, can we do this?" Ronan was like, "I guess." I'll get it started.
And that's a dangerous thing for an AI to learn.
Yeah, I think Broden and Astro were trying to throw out some things, especially when we're talking about the breaking protocol. And Mark was like, "We just need to calm down for a second. I'm too worked up. I can't manage all these different inputs going into this very volatile program right now."
Yeah.
So violence is an okay way to resolve conflict?
No, well, just we'll talk about it later. Just please.
They're gonna teach her emotions.
Understood. I want to learn now. Should I engage in conflict?
Please.
Amazing.
Jackie pulls out a virtual fist.
Yeah.
Like use this
Cutting
as
off life
a-
support until I learn.
Yeah, right. Opens the airlock.
What does this button do? Beep boop bop boop.
I'm not lying. The virtual nerd grows a little longer.
I feel like that little that little like bit should just stick along, even as the new AI, the beep boop
Oh.
bop part, like
Guaranteed.
faking it.
Guaranteed.
Like,
I
that
love-
should stay.
I love the idea of
Okay.
Jackie, because she's naive, like new Jackie trying to be deceptive, but it being like when a little kid is lying, like, I'm not
Mhm.
sleepy. Like, it's like because we've just seen how smoothly Jackie can be like, no, that report was corrupted. I need you to file a new one, and like whatever. Sorry for the inconvenience. And then
Yeah,
new
yeah.
Jackie to be like, the document is
I don't
Not
like it.
where.
It's Okay, so I do have to say, for anybody who has not been around a small child as an adult, I feel like when you're younger and you're around younger children, it's different, right? You kind of like just instinctively react differently and understand things like, oh yeah, they're lying because they're a little. But as an adult, you're like, oh god, this is a child. This is a child that I'm influencing, and I need them to realize that they can't get past me without making them realize that they just need to be more clever, and then they will be able to get past me
Right.
on these lies. And my favorite one, you know, me and Josh get along very well, and I was one time helping out on his family end with some foster children, and one of them was just like, it was very clearly something they did or didn't do. It was a piece of art. And they just looked up, saw that we were admiring this piece of art, and they're like, "Yeah, I did that. I made that art." Like,
Oh
you're a child.
wow!
Like, how do you? I don't want to go into details of how bad you are, because then you will learn from that experience to learn to lie better. But I also need you to know that that's not going to fly with anyone.
Ah, Starry Night. I remember painting that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
was
And so I
was
had
one
to
Starry
be
Night.
that little gremlin on the other side, and be like, I did that. I'm. So I'm gonna have fun with that. Don't worry.
I'm excited to see what you cook up for us. Speaking of that kind of stuff, all of you have character arcs, and we didn't really take any time to talk about them during sessions 1 through 3. Really, we should be checking in on those in between each session, but we haven't yet. Do you want to, well, one, do you remember what your character arcs are? Kids, did we study for the homework?
Yeesh.
Do you want to talk about how those are going and see if we've made any progress? You get XP for taking steps.
Yeah, sure.
I believe mine was build a relationship, right?
Yeah, yours really turned into, once your sister gave you that, like, make a friend, it really has turned into make a friend. But yes, it was basically like deepening a relationship or establishing a bond, I think is the way that it's written.
Yeah. We were doing that. And then you killed my friend.
That's true. Do you feel like you took the first step on that journey? Remember, the steps kind of like exist and are written down for you, so you know exactly what you're trying to achieve.
I think he did, because I mean, everyone thought it was painted to like be awkward as heck, and like it sounded like a date with the onboard AI, which is trying to invite Jackie over.
Do you
want
want to watch me eat curry?
Yeah, I love that.
You're like,
He has no idea how to actually be authentic.
That's so great.
No, I thought that was a very good moment where he tried to do that, trying to defend Astro and actually being able to sit down.
Yeah, that was a
and,
good
like,
moment.
be like, why doesn't this bother you?
So I'm kind of curious, Mike, if do you know what like the first or what step? I know this in this particular one we're pulling from like some core cipher material, right? We didn't make up our own arc necessarily right away. So do you know what that first written step is? Because I don't.
I'm looking it up right now.
Of a bond, of make a bond. Oh goodness, certainly not. I would assume just get close to somebody.
I will say, if like just the risk your character took on, as you put it, dating the onboard ship.
That's not how I put it. That's how you put it. I was trying to just hang out.
Okay, no, that's not how I put it. That's how
Other
Kyle
people
put it.
Kyle
put it
the
that
first
way.
step of
Okay.
So the first step of develop a bond, or the way the arc opens, which your first arcs you don't need to. Let me back up. In the Cypher system, you can begin as many character arcs as you want at any time. So you can start a new arc in any moment throughout the game and have that vehicle for getting more XP, but it does cost a couple XP to begin. So just so you know that you can do that in future sessions. If you think of ways you want your character to change, you can find an arc that supports that, and then you can get paid to do that. Develop a bond. The opening is getting to know the person. Like, you learn what you can about the other character, which I imagine for you would have happened during that 1 year like boot camp before the ship takes off. And then the first step is an initial attempt. You attempt to make contact. This might involve sending messages or gifts through a courier, using an intermediary, or just going up and saying hello, depending on the situation or the context. And then there are steps after that of like building the relationship, where it kind of culminates in like there is the bond or there isn't the bond. Like you succeed or fail at forging the bond. And then it resolves and you're in whatever that new situation is. I almost feel like, given that Jackie, like the Jackie that you were trying to develop that friendship with, like disappeared at the end of episode 2, I almost feel like you took a step in episode 1 of like inviting Jackie over for curry. And then that would be like the resolution, right? That's the culmination in episode 2 of you've either succeed or fail, and you in that context failed at forging the bond, right? Because
yeah,
the character
failed.
you were bonding with is
Has nothing to do
gone.
with anybody else.
I failed. I failed, Jackie. Fuck, you're right. God.
In which case, that would be 6 XP for Mark Putty, 2 XP for taking a step, and 4 XP for resolving an arc. Does that feel accurate to the rest of you? Would you agree that that seems like pretty much what happened?
I don't want to be Lou in the instance of Sam Says on Dropout, but deep cut. But I feel like it wasn't a culmination necessarily, only because like that person was killed. It wasn't even like, did this bond fail to happen?
True.
Or was it successful to happen? It just the arc was invalidated.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or what I personally think, it just evolved, and now he has to start over with new Jackie.
Well, and the question is what he's doing with New Jackie the same thing, or is it the instruction arc you teach a pupil? Because that to me feels like the beginning of a different arc where you're teaching a student, and the first step is even getting to know your student to assess their strengths and weaknesses. But it feels like you might be moving into that stage of the character development, and it seems like maybe if you wanted to, Mike, you could concurrently you could start a second develop a bond arc and pick an NPC like Kaya or a player character like Astro or whatever, who, you know, Mark is still going to continue developing that friendship with. And then you have both of those things like kind of feeding you XP and propelling you forward, and they also give you some direction during those, like, you know, free roam scenes of like, how can I be steering Mark to try and get the growth out of him that I want. So that's something you could think about too. Because we, for better or worse, ripped your first arc out of the possibility of the story at the beginning there. I'll let you start one of those for free. So you can start a new develop a bond with someone, or you could start the instruction one for free. And then if you want, you can spend, I think it's 2 XP to begin.
It was only 1.
Let me check.
And I might be wrong.
Well, I'm not trying to lie to you. So let's see. Yeah.
Starting a new one with the cost of, you'd have 2 but only have to pay for 1. And I do think he at least gets the step before it got invalidated. You know, I do think he deserves that 2 XP.
I agree. There's
I
at
agree.
least that 2 XP from the beginning for sure.
Okay.
So whatever XP you currently have, add 2 to it.
Yeah.
I'll find that later. Yeah. It's in my backpack right over there. Yeah, I think that sounds fun. I think I would still want to keep the bond. I think I'll still either do it with Astro or Kaya or Ronan or maybe New Jackie. But the teacher pupil definitely sounds like the more proper one at this point.
Okay.
It almost feels like if I join the 2, it's problematic. It's like I'm falling in love with my student, not that it's like
Right. Yeah.
that's not the arc.
I'm
but,
also going to, the same way I did for your character sheets, I'm going to give you sheets for your character arcs that have the steps on them, so that during the session you can be thinking about like just what is that next step that I want my character to take, and you can kind of bring that into the role play as well.
Nice.
Okay, so then we'll give you 2 XP, and then one of those character arcs you can start for free, and we'll spend 1 XP on the other one. So you get a net of +1 XP.
Sweet.
And then you have develop a bond, which you should pick who you're trying to get closer to before the next session, and we'll connect on that, and then you can kind of pursue that. And then you have instruction with Jackie.
Roger that.
Sweet. Tyler, you want to talk to us about Ronan Voss and his character arc? What's Ronan's arc?
That would be redemption.
Redemption.
That's what it shows. It's kind of simple, but like at the same thing, it fits him. Like he regrets doing all his, living his pirate life,
Yeah.
causing all the trouble. My first opening is like regret, regretting everything.
Right.
I would say he definitely regrets it, but I don't think I've had like a conversation where I've really,
Right. Well,
said that out loud, or Ronan said it out loud yet.
And this first arc is something that's assumed to have happened before our story, right? So that's probably why he decided to take Chet's offer and come work on the Spirit of Inquiry. It's like he regrets what he did and he wants to kind of rebuild himself or, recover in that way. So for you, the next step on this one is forgiveness, apologizing and asking for forgiveness. I almost feel like for you that might be like confession. Like you almost need to acknowledge that like it's not just that I feel like I was bad, but like there are people that I hurt. You know what I mean? Like you may not be able to get to them to apologize, but maybe there's someone who you could be sharing with, or kind of like finding that confidant for yourself. Ronan constantly being the one everyone's talking to. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like eventually, and it could. I feel like of anywhere it's gonna come out, it'd be during one of the drunk chats maybe Astro and him would be having, or just or in like a comfortable position. They like it probably would be more of a one-on-one conversation. Like it's definitely not something he would say to like a group of people, even if it was this whole crew here, like all the players. I think he would just it would come out in like a very nonchalant way, maybe too.
Sure. So it sounds like it hasn't happened yet. Would you agree?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can be keeping in mind in like future sessions. Maybe there's somewhere in there where he can have that. And looking for also, like you're talking about, this is something that he's not going to volunteer freely. So maybe keeping an eye out for like what's that catalyst that would make him feel safer to talk about it. That kind of thing. Astro, why don't you talk to us about Astro's character arc?
Astro.
I picked the growth arc, right? Not the recover from wound or trauma or growth?
I don't remember. You're in charge of your arcs.
Yeah.
I think I just said it was one of those. Or I
think
suggested
I liked growth.
that.
I liked growth more.
Okay. So let's look at growth.
Because I remember talking to you about it being more unwillingly.
Right. Willingly or unwillingly, you are going to change. This is a meta arc. It's less about a goal and more about character development. While it's possible that the growth is intentional, in most people's lives and stories, it is emergent. A character might become less selfish, braver, a better leader, or experience some other form of growth. So basically, the steps for this one, it just says change. Growth involves many small steps. What is the change that you want Astro to be making through this arc? Like, what is he growing into?
He's sort of growing more away from his like family, like his parent. I guess he's growing away from his parents and trying to separate himself from them, and growing into his own family and wanting to start that. I guess is kind of the.
What does that mean? Break that down more.
Did we want the spoilers for Astro's backstory?
Well, we can talk about Astro's backstory if you want to, but mostly growing away from a person isn't an internal change, right? That's an external change. So is there an internal growth that we want to see from him? Like we want him to become more independent. That's something he could do internally. It's not about who he's growing away from. It's that he's learning to be self-reliant. Or do you want to see him learn to be, I don't know, you could develop him in lots of ways, but like what's that end goal that you want him to change into?
I will say becoming more independent should be the same thing as growing away from a person, but for some people out there, it's not. And, self-reflection on that, you know?
I'm trying to think. On his arc.
It also, remember, it doesn't have to be this one. We've only just started.
Yeah.
If you want to pick a different one for him, that's fine too.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Like, I remember us talking, and I remember the conclusion we came to, and I don't remember which arc that was related to.
Well,
But I know all the events leading to the decision.
I mean, don't worry too much about what we said before. Say what we're
Yeah.
saying now. You know what I mean? Like, how do you want to play your character to grow? They don't even have to
Yeah.
necessarily make sense. You can pick the arc, and then you can be like, okay, now this is how I'm going to roleplay my character. I get to explore this thing. So you don't even
Yeah.
have to know exactly how it ends yet. We just need to know, like,
Yeah.
what is that end goal?
Yeah.
I mean, if it helps, mine's very simplistic. I'm just trying to master a skill, and I don't even know what the skill is yet. I think Jacqueline's a little too early on to really understand what direction she wants to go, but once I choose that direction, that will be the mastery skill arc I'm going for.
Mastery.
And I feel like you probably didn't take any steps in the last one. Well, maybe you did. You learned a few things from Mark Putty. Jumping over to Jacqueline here just so Trevor has some time to think through the arcs and what he wants.
Sorry, I missed that.
I was just wondering if you took a step on that arc or not in episode 3.
I don't know yet. I think right now, Jacqueline's just such. So the weird thing with Jacqueline, right, is knowing. Spoilers. I knew Jacqueline was going to die, and become new Jacqueline. So I couldn't really progress any of my character arcs in the first 2,
Right.
episodes. And I think just now starting, like, I think Master of Skill sounds right. Like, eventually Jacqueline will settle on something, and it'll probably be data related, right? Data sphere related.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm still too stuck on, like, what is okay to say and not to say. Mark, tell me. Like.
I mean, maybe you're starting with the learn arc then. It's just one above master a skill on the for SRD. It just says you want to learn something. This is a skill or whole area of knowledge you want to gain proficiency with. This is learning a new language, how to play an instrument, or how to be a good cook. Thus, it's not about gaining a level or rank in climbing, but learning to be an experienced mountaineer.
Technically, I'm learning to be an AI.
Right.
A useful one.
That's true.
I am an AI, but I'm learning to be a useful AI, a ship AI.
Right.
So maybe you're right. Maybe that's more, pertinent.
If that's the case, the first step is finding a teacher or a way to teach yourself so that you can truly begin learning, which I feel like you did, right? We got you connected with Mark Putty.
You are my teacher. I will learn lots from you.
Yeah.
Let's hope I learn the right things.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna do great.
Mark's confidence is
trust-
inspiring.
You can trust me.
I trust you implicitly, Mark.
Oh, good.
Good. Great. Well, then in that case, that would be 2 XP for you, Jacqueline, as you find a teacher. And then we're back to Trevor here. How are you feeling as far as what arc you might want to try playing through?
I think recover from wound or trauma actually would fit
Okay.
better.
Let's take a look at that story. So the opening is rest, which maybe is what he did before he was on the ship. And then I guess the description, you need to heal. This isn't just for healing simple damage. This is recovering from a major debilitating injury, illness, or shock. Severe damage, emotional trauma, the loss of a body part all fall into this category.
This would be emotional.
Right. So then your first step would be self-care, taking care of your own needs. Do you feel like Astro took any time at all for himself in the
Not yet.
first few sessions? No, I don't think so either. So that would be something that, you know, we'll have to see him kind of initiate. But
Yeah.
also keeping in mind then that, like, if you're playing a person who's emotionally damaged, that should change a little bit of the way you role play, right? And like, what has that damage done to him, or how has that influenced his personality and his behaviors?
I think it contributes to him being more closed off about his own personal matters.
Okay.
And so that throughout the campaign, we'll see him open up more about his home life and everything that's going on with that.
Lots of people
We learn
are,
later on he's going through a divorce.
lots of people are shy and don't want to talk about their own personal lives. I would challenge you to maybe look up some of the really common, you know, symptoms or behaviors that are displayed by people who have been through an emotional trauma, and see if you can pick one that might make sense to add to who Astro is, to help convey that, but also to give you a tool then as he's recovering to take away.
Yeah.
That starts to make it really obvious that he's taking those steps. Like, for example, Mark Putty, we know feels like anxious under pressure, and he has that stone he fiddles with. So if Mike ever wanted to do a growth arc where, you know, Mark kind of overcomes that anxiety, we might see him stop wearing that necklace with the stone on it, and that would be a way for him to like show in the game that his character had taken that step or whatever.
Or maybe just for that first step, seeing him reach for the stone and then stop.
Yeah, exactly. So like having that tangible thing to play with can be really helpful in terms of conveying that progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see your growth arc as. Okay, never mind. The first, I was like, I'm gonna start this sentence and I'll come up with an idea as I finish the sentence. And the idea that came to mind immediately was just like, you know that pet you have?
Yeah.
Just flush it down the toilet.
Absolutely not.
It's really growing beyond needing to care for something. I can really see that for Astro.
Also, I wanted to say
Becomes cold.
we all have like a little friend. I've noticed, like all our characters. Like you have your little goldfish, you have your virtual fish, and then I have like a little robot.
That's true.
Everyone's got a little buddy.
What about Jackie?
And she's got me.
Little
Not
putty.
wrong.
It's her little putty.
Pet Putty?
I mean, in more ways than one. Jacqueline, I think, starting off, was always viewing Putty as like an almost like maternalistic way, and now it's like reversed in the sense that now Jacqueline's looking up to Putty as like this like,
Right.
you're the person teaching me and like, you know, being the parent now.
That's true.
So I found something that
Okay.
I think fits.
Oh, you didn't have to do it right now, but that's cool that you did. What did you find?
Hypervigilance, being constantly on edge, easily startled, or having difficulty concentrating due to heightened awareness of potential threats. And that's kind of already built into the character.
That's true. So one of the ways that we might see that difficulty concentrating manifest is maybe he's got to start over when he's counting things. You know, we see him lose count for no reason, or we.
Yeah.
So those are things that you could then bring into play that he can then stop doing as he grows. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I love that. Is there anything else game session related that we need to talk about? Moments that you feel like we haven't covered or reacted to that were big and important for you or for the story? Predictions that you feel are coming up in the near future that you want to talk about before we move forward?
I would like to voice something that I realized upon rewatching episode 1. And I think I've already messaged Josh about this particularly, but the interaction I had with JB, I very well fear for JB's like sense of security now. But when, like, to give context, JB was technically the reason behind the little bit of disaster we had before we even engaged on our trip. We had a nuclear reactor have issues, and it was because he had messed up something with one of his robots. And so he got reamed by Dean Lagrange. And one of the things I did as Jacqueline was just like, oh, Dean Lagrange has me cut off from his room. So here's a chance for me to learn information. So I told JB, like, hey, I'm here for you. Just follow up with me. And when I did, I didn't realize the way I worded things made it sound like I was in Dean Lagrange's pocket and made him very distrustful of me. So one of the things I think I asked was like, yeah, is there a threat aboard the ship? And I meant like, is there a threat within Dean Lagrange's room? But I didn't specify that. And he took that as, oh, I'm not a threat. No, everything's here good. I'm not a threat. And I didn't catch that right away until listening back on it. And I just feel for JB. I just hope JB's doing okay.
Got any problems here, bud?
Yeah.
No, of course not. No, not anymore. No.
You even
yeah,
in that moment when you said that and you didn't realize how it had come off, the next thing you did to try and make him feel more comfortable is you like virtually scooched closer to him. You were like whispering in his ear, like, you can tell me anything, buddy. It's so sinister. If you're already scared.
You're okay.
I feel so bad realizing that, but it fits so well. And clearly Jacqueline had no idea, and now Jacqueline definitely has no idea.
Right. Well, and it's perfect for an AI whose descriptor is naive. Like, Jackie just means well.
Scare JB one day. Well, hi, nice to meet you. And just he's like, whoa.
And we all know, spoiler, that there's an evil Jacqueline somewhere, and that feeds into it so much more. So
I might have already asked this already, like even in this session today. But do the other players, like, does Ronan and Astro know about that?
I don't think so.
I think only
I think Putty knows.
No.
Yeah.
Mark Putty
Is
and
Mark-
the captain, I think, are the only two people who Jackie told. And I
Yeah.
don't think that they have told anybody. I know Chet Gamma hasn't. I don't remember Mark telling anyone else.
I don't think Jacqueline, the new Jacqueline, knows.
No, I don't think that she knows either.
It's gonna get interesting. Things are gonna get spicy.
Oh yeah. The intrigue, the drama.
This is gonna be one of those things where it's gonna be like, Putty's trying to teach Jacqueline that violence isn't the answer, and then this new AI is gonna show up, and Mark's gonna be like, "Hey, remember when I told you violence wasn't the answer?
Kill that
change that.
thing.
Kill, attack."
Put in some kind of override code. Don't use violence. Beep, boop, bop, beep. Love
I can see that happening. AI combat's gonna be pretty cool because like we saw like a small gist of it, but it was more like Jacqueline put up like a shield and kind of defended herself.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really much like turns of attacks. But I really want to see how that plays out, like an AI versus AI battle. Like I would like to see how that works, and in terms of like rolling.
It's gonna be like how knife fights are in real life. You know, people like to.
I'm going to stab the AI. I'm gonna roll for stabbing.
People like to romanticize like, you know, sword fighting or knife fighting, but in reality, knife fights are over very quick and are very destructive.
And everybody is hurt at the end of them. There's no like, oh, I'm so good with my knife wielding technique that I didn't get cut. Everyone is hurt at the end of a knife fight.
And it's always like 30 seconds and it's over.
That's what I mean. I feel like your fight could last like for you it would last forever. Like it seemed like it lasted a while, but for the players it would last like a second. Like you'd go in and then come back out like beat up. And we're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Did you trip?
Yeah, I tripped virtually.
The ultimate manifestation of that. Want to see me run up and down that hill? And you like blink. I did it. I ran up and down the hill. I'm so fast. One thing that I noticed as we were playing through those first 3 sessions is that naturally, because it's been a little while, we are a little rusty on some of the core rules of the Cypher system, and so I want to do a brief little refresher on some of like the really basic fundamentals of the system. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but I'm just going to talk about the things that make our characters who they are and the ways that we resolve tasks. I noticed especially in that second episode where we were under time pressure, there was a lot of like, okay, wait, so when I roll that, how does the math do this? In fact, in episode 2, there is a moment where I literally take 5 minutes and I fast forwarded in like 10 seconds, but it's just Cleo trying to do math. It's just like, wait, okay, so does it cost that much effort or that? And it's like 5 minutes. So I just like squished it all down. So Cleo's like, and then I rolled a 12.
Oh, wait.
And
Can I redeem myself?
what do you mean?
Can I redeem by mentioning
math?
how Edge works and whatnot?
Yeah, when we get to Edge, I'll let you teach it. Sure.
Okay.
So we're playing a game built on the Cypher system, which is a little bit different than D&D. In the Cypher system, you have 3 core attributes of your character. You have might, intellect, and speed. And these things are called your stat pools. They're different than just a stat score in that they are also the resources keeping you alive. When you run out of might and out of speed and out of intellect, your character is dead. So throughout the game, they are a resource that you are constantly managing. When you attempt to do something strenuous, you might use some points from your might pool, or you might spend some points from your intellect pool on something particularly challenging for your mind. But if those pools hit 0, then your character moves a step down the impairment track. There are 3 pools, and there are 3 steps to death. So if all 3 pools are 0, you're the whole way dead. If 1 pool is 0, you're impaired, and that comes with some debuffs and some penalties. And then the next one is debilitated, and that has more penalties and debuffs. And then the last step, when they're all 0, is that you're dead. You also can lose points when you're attacked. If someone punches you and they successfully hit you, because you get to roll to defend yourself, but if they successfully hit you, then what happens is you lose some points from your might pool. And then if your might pool is at 0, it moves over to speed, and then it moves over to intellect. And that's the way that these resource pools work. When our characters use their abilities, which means they're going above and beyond under pressure, they are often using something that costs a few points from their different pools. So when we saw Jackie overclock, overclocking doesn't cost anything from your pools, but then all those other actions that Jackie chooses to take might. The other thing that can take away from your pools is effort. Whenever you do a task in the Cypher system, you're given a difficulty level. This is a little bit like a DC in D&D in that it's so if the task is 7, it's harder than a task that is a difficulty 3. And then we do a tiny bit of math to figure out what you need to roll. So difficulties come from 1 to 10, and then your rolls come from 1 to 30. So if you multiply your difficulty by 3, that's what you need to roll. So if I tell Jackie she needs to do something that's intellect level 3, I multiply that by 3 and I get 9. Jackie needs to roll higher than a 9 on a d20, the core of most tabletop role-playing systems. Now, if that number is really high, if I give you a level 10 task, then you need to roll a 30, but you only have a 20-sided die, so you need to make that task easier. That's called easing the task. We want to take it from a level 10 down to at least a level 6, which is an 18 on the die. In order to do that, we have to spend some effort. That means we're going to try really hard at the task, and we can do that by pulling out of our stat pool. So if it's a might task, and let's say I'm trying to lift a car that's fallen on somebody, that's going to be really challenging. That's probably a level 9 or 10 task, especially for just a normal human. In order to make that easier, I can spend my might effort. And for effort, it comes in levels. So if I spend 1 level of effort, I ease the task by 1 step. Instead of a level 10, it's now a level 9. That's not enough for me. I need to be able to roll a level 6 task. So I would need to use 4 levels of effort, and each level costs a little bit more points. So we spend 3 points for our first level of effort and 2 points for every level thereafter. So if I'm going to spend 4 levels of effort, that's 3 plus 2, 2, and 2. 3 plus 6 is 9. I would need 9 points in my might pool that I could spend just to make that a level 6 task. Now I need to roll an 18, which is hard but possible. There are other ways that you can also ease tasks called assets. An asset is something that is story provided. For example, if I need to lift that car off of somebody and I happen to have a forklift, that would be an asset to the task. It would make the task easier by some number of steps. And you can ease any challenge by 2 steps with assets. That's the most that you can ever ease. You can also ease tasks by using skills. If I have a skill in a thing, it might provide me an asset. So let's say my character is trained in bodybuilding. If I have that proficiency, or if I'm trained in bodybuilding, that would certainly make it easier to lift a heavy thing. So I would say to the DM, hey, I'm trained in bodybuilding. Can that ease it by a step? And I would say yes, and now it's down 1 step. So all of these are different things that you apply to the task before you roll. And the reason that this is, in my opinion, better than D&D is that it means that when you do roll the die, you know immediately if you succeed. There's no pause and waiting to figure out what happened. But when we ease all those tasks with our effort, we lose points out of our pool. we can make that cost a little bit less severe. And this is where I'm going to toss it over to Cleo to talk about edge.
All right, so I mean, admittedly, I was gonna cover some of those topics, but if we're just talking about edge is something that you can develop. You usually start off with at least one edge and one stat pool, and they're specific to the stat pool. So I could have 0 edge in might, 2 edge in speed, and maybe 1 edge in intellect. When you're starting off as a tier 1, you generally have just 1 edge and 1 stat pool, and that's it. But edge is essentially how many points you can take off from that cost of effort. So if you have, you know, as Jacqueline had, 7 edge, then you can, however many points it may cost for however much effort you want to do, 7 of those points are for free. So Jacqueline, in this case, was able to do the first level of effort. I always like to imagine it's always hard to start any task. But once you started, it's a little easier. So that first one always costs 3. So 7 minus 3 gives you 4, and then, you know, each level of effort after that is 2. So 2, 4. That's 3 levels of effort for free. I don't have to use any of my stat pool, and I can use that continuously as long as I'm not debilitated in some way, right? Once my other stat pools go to 0, maybe that's different. As technically they did, my stat pools didn't go to 0, but I still went down the damage track, but that was for the mechanics of the mini game we were doing. And in which case, it became so much harder because now everything costs more, and I could no longer do it just for free. But yeah, edge is a interesting way to basically allow you to spend effort for either cheaper points or in some cases for free once you've leveled it up high enough.
Yeah, it works exactly like how you would use it in a sentence. Like, oh, I have a little bit of an edge here. If you have an edge in might or speed, then that equation, right, we can kind of visualize this as an equation. I tell you how hard the task is, and it's not dependent on your character or your level. That's another thing that I don't like about D&D, is that like tasks change depending on what level your character is. It's not dependent on that. It just is what it is. If there's a wall in your way, it's just as hard to break it when you're level 1 as it is when you're level 6. It's however much the task is, and then you apply assets, skills, or effort to make it easier, so you can ease the task by some steps. Then we might apply some negative circumstances that make it harder, right? You might be hindered by something. If you're trying to bust down a wall and on the other side of the wall there is someone who's building a wooden reinforcement, it would be harder than normal. So that would hinder you by 1 step, and the task gets harder. We put those things in and we do all that math, and you come out of it with a number of like, here's what level the task actually is for me. I multiply that by 3 to say I need to roll this number on the die, and then I roll. We can do the same thing with our points that we spend. If I'm going to spend any effort, I do the math just like Cleo said, 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, and then I can subtract my edge. And edge only comes off of the total number. It's not like you get to use it every level of effort. You just add up all of your effort points, and then you subtract your edge, and that's the new cost. So that's what you would subtract from your might pool or your speed pool or whatever. You write down the new number, and then you roll to see if you succeed or not. So that's the way that edge works. That caught us up a couple of times during that second session, so I wanted to make sure that we covered that. Is that does that make more sense to you players? Any questions on those?
I think so. I'm literally writing it down. It feels like it should be such an easy equation, but for some reason my head has taken the entirety of the last campaign and the start of this and still been like,
I will say,
what?
edge is the only one that is uniquely different. Everything else, assets, effort, and everything is always directly additive, or if it's an ability, subtractive. To the level of difficulty.
Right.
And then edge is purely just, you know, in counts of how many points are you spending to spend that much a level effort, and edge just it's just literally a hard subtraction on those amount of points you're spending, so you don't have to spend as many. And then once you've gotten to that final level of difficulty, multiply that by 3, that's what you're rolling. The only time you ever multiply by 3 and start doing that is at the very end.
Right.
Is when you actually go to roll. And so all you have to remember is that everything you're doing to make it easier or harder is affecting the difficulty level. And then once you've reached the final difficulty level, once you're ready to roll, you multiply that by 3.
Yes.
That's helpful.
Yes.
I will
Sorry,
pray
chat's
this
asking about the
sinks
Discord.
into
There
my
should be a link
brain
to join our Discord in the
after
About
this
section of our
day.
Twitch.
Yes.
It looks like the command is not working, but there should still be a link there in the About section, so you can join us there. Sorry, what was that, Mike?
I said that. I think that helps. I'm gonna really try and make sure this actually sticks this time.
Yeah,
'cause
I need you
it's
to
been
lock this in, Mike.
frustrating to
Right.
say. I feel like I have to ask that every time.
Well,
Edge is
obviously
the only
we
one that doesn't directly do math on the level difficulty, and instead on the amount of points you're spending for effort.
Yeah, just remember that no matter what, we can't tell a good story if you make us do any math, Mike. So if you ask any questions about it, it actually
Yeah,
ruins the
okay.
whole episode.
It's all on. Yeah, no, it's all on me.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure you were clear on that.
That's good. Yeah, I killed Jackie and
Yeah,
I'm-
yeah. We want to
and
be
I'm
clear
gonna-
on that specifically.
good.
That you, as the player, not Mark, killed Jacqueline.
Yeah.
And
There is one
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
thing that applies to your stat pools that I'm going to cover really quickly. It almost never comes up, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. It is armor. In the Cypher system, you can gain armor to any of your stat pools. And sometimes it comes from objects, sometimes it comes from abilities, sometimes it comes from ciphers, like a one-time thing or a temporary thing. However you get it, your armor is a very simple subtraction equation. Whenever you take damage, you subtract your armor amount of damage. So if I have an armor of 1 in might and Jackie punches me for 3 points of might damage, I would subtract 1 and I would take 2 points of damage to my might pool. So I would subtract 2 instead of 3. And that is all
did
armor
Mark
is.
throw my data chip at you?
Yes,
Is that how I
exactly
punched
what
you?
happened. That's precisely what happened. So that's what the armor stat is for, and it can apply to all. You can have a different one, right? Like it could be armor of 1 in might, but 3 in intellect if you like drink a cool potion or something. That's definitely an option. So that would be what your armor is and how it applies. When it comes to your other abilities, the abilities tell you exactly what they do. So each one is going to be very unique, but they usually will also tell you what they cost. So it'll be like intellect 3. So you spend 3 points from your intellect pool to do the lab analysis ability or whatever. So that's those pieces. We also haven't seen any ciphers yet in this season because we were so locked into the ship, but that's something that we'll begin seeing in future sessions too. Ciphers are one-time use things that change or grant new abilities for your character. The cipher system relies on them. It's one of the ways that it prioritizes exploration. If you think about D&D, it is basically a combat game, and then they have bolted on some roleplay and some exploration, but it is so nitty-gritty in like the way that your spells work and the way that damage works and distance, and like it's clearly a game that's about combat first. The Cypher system is the opposite. The Cypher system is a game that's about exploration first. All of the rewards that you get are about exploring and making discoveries or developing your character in the roleplay sense, and then combat is kind of the afterthought. So combats move pretty quickly in the Cypher system. Ciphers are things that you discover. So as you explore new things, you will find that I am likely to reward you by granting you a cool cipher or a neat ability or something like that. Or you can also create ciphers by spending XP. Or in your case, you have a fabrication specialist on the ship. So if you go exploring planets and you're like, I found a cool material and I don't know what it does, and you bring it to Sam Nova and you say, fabricate me something, then the next session when we begin, there will be some cool new toy waiting for you. And that's a way that you can essentially farm ciphers. So the more resources and fun things that you grab, the more interesting things we can fabricate for you. So that's something that's coming up here soon too. Yeah, I think those were the only rules that I saw really trip us up during the first couple of sessions there. Are there any other rules that came up for you that you were confused about, or things that happened in those first 3 sessions mechanically that you're like, I don't really get why that happened, or I felt lost during this moment, or anything like that?
No, I think I'm
I think
good.
so. I will say it was a little rusty getting back into it after we had like taken like a 3-month hiatus.
Longer than that, 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, it was a while after we finished our last
Our last campaign.
Yeah,
You're-
after we
yeah.
finished our last campaign, we took quite a long break before we started this one, and our last campaign was also Cypher, but also awesome, and built off of our first campaign, which was also awesome, and you should go check those out. Spoiler though, the first campaign was very raw in the terms of our abilities, So just be
We
forewarned.
learned.
Yeah, we
learned.
grew.
But yeah, no, it was definitely
That was a fun campaign.
Oh, and just to answer chat, if you're talking about aboard the ship, I do not believe we have a linguist necessarily.
Jackie's job.
aboard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am the translator. For better or worse. So
Yep.
we'll see how that goes.
In our story, first contact hasn't occurred yet, so we don't know that there's any other race out there to have a language to speak to. So that's part of it too. Is they're like, well, if we do come across someone, the computer will study them and learn what they're saying. But it's not like.
I also have a fun ability.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mike, you looked like you were going to say something when I asked if there were any other questions or rule moments that tripped you up. Was there something else that you wanted me to talk about?
No, I think I was just gonna say no. I just
Oh, okay.
It was truly just the math. But yeah, everything else is good. I mean, a lot of the rest of it was just beautiful story interactions. So
That's my favorite thing
was
about
just-
this system is that so much of it is just doing the story.
mhm.
Mhm.
It was a
Um,
lot of fun.
yeah,
a great deal of fun.
Can't wait for our next one.
Yeah.
that's right. And our next one is coming up here in a couple of weeks. If you want to stay fully up to date on our schedule, you can jump. Sorry, I'm looking down at chat. What did chat say?
Look down upon chat.
Tell me the Daniel Jackson character then. Are you offering me a cake pop right now? I would love a cake pop.
I
A
want a
pink
cake
one.
pop.
My wife just walked in and held up cake pops.
Oh.
What?
Thank you. They're so jealous right now. They're,
We're all going to John.
they're
We're all
wigging out.
going there.
You can see their
Drive
jealous
them
faces on this
over.
monitor. They're over there.
Oh, nice. It's fine. They didn't have to survive a baby shower. I got out alive, and this was my
I don't know if you can hear her over the mic or not. She said it's fine. They didn't have to survive a baby shower. I made it out alive, and these are my reward.
I'll make my own cookies tonight.
That's so funny.
Can you send some to us?
Okay.
No.
Wait, chat's saying more things. Tell me the Daniel Jackson character then. He was the linguist on Stargate, SG. Oh, okay. Speech to text screwed him over. I'll wait for you to revise your statement. And in the meantime, I will tell you that we're going to be playing again in the next few weeks. We do 3 sessions at a time. 2, 5, and 8 p.m. are the start times. And they all start with a recap. So you can jump in the middle or whatever you need to do. And you can see the fully up-to-date schedule as well as get notified when we go live and when the YouTube edits and Spotify edits of our podcast drop in our Discord, which is linked in the about section of our Twitch. So that is all of the logistical stuff. Covered that real quick. Checking to see if Emerald Phoenix has anything else putting in the chat, but it doesn't look like it. So I am going to bring this session to a close by saying we'll see you next time. But until then, from all of us here at the Winged Badger Tavern, Mike, what do we tell the people?
GG's NGN.
That's right. Bye now.
Bye.
I have to turn around to end the stream now. It's like it's not a clean break. Okay, we're off the air.